Good morning, it's Monday, it's the 27th of September. Top story this morning is that soldiers could be drafted in to drive petrol tankers after 3 days of panic buying, coupled with a shortage of drivers, has caused some pumps to run dry.
Government ministers are expected to meet today to discuss the proposal. They've already suspended oil industry competition laws to allow suppliers to work together. Our business correspondent, Katie Austin, has the very latest.
These were the scenes yesterday as panic buying led to some forecourts having to close.
People are going a bit nuts because 6 a.m. in the morning people are queuing up for petrol.
I've got to round about 2 to 3 hours work of about 20 mile. So I don't know what I'm going to do.
It's really frustrating. I am a driver and without petrol, of course, you cannot move.
A group which speaks for more than 5,000 independent fuel retailers said the impact had been severe.
There is a large number, more than half, which have already run dry, and those others are running dry quite quickly.
Companies involved in the supply of fuel say a spike in demand is the problem, not any shortage of petrol or diesel. But they met the business secretary yesterday, who agreed to temporarily relax competition laws so that, in these circumstances, the industry can better share information and prioritise the delivery of supplies to where they're most needed. The government is considering deploying the army to help with deliveries, and it's understood that option is under discussion ahead of a possible meeting of cabinet ministers. The first limited supply issues were down to a lack of tanker drivers. That's highlighted a wider lorry driver shortage, a long-standing problem that's got worse. Over the weekend, the government announced new measures aimed at tackling it, including 5,000 temporary visas, so drivers can come in from overseas in the run-up to Christmas. Haulage and business groups welcomed any help, but some argued the announcement didn't go far enough. Supermarkets say they need 15,000 lorry drivers to avoid disruption in the festive season. Katie Austin, BBC News.
And our John Maguire is at a filling station in Kidderminster this morning. It hasn't opened yet, John, but presumably they're braced for another busy day. Good morning to you.
Yeah, morning, Dan. We're on the main road between Kidderminster and Bromsgrove. As you say, the fuel station isn't open yet, but it's been a tumultuous few days, really, for the staff here. And when the cones are removed from the road, when it opens later, they, of course, expect to be busy. Not too busy, I think they probably hope, if that makes any sense. Kevin, good morning to you, Kevin Hughes. Well, has the last few days been like? Thursday evening, I think, things started to get very busy for you.
They did, and then it all got very, very silly on Friday. We've had a very tough time over the last 18 months, but not seen anything like this at all.
Yeah, you describe it as silly. Why?
Massive queues, people. There is no reason to panic buy. We have got plenty of fuel. Most of the customers have been very, very good, but trying to marshal them and keep the road open has been interesting.
And you've had queues quarter of a mile long, something like that?
Easily at times.
And what can you do? I mean, are you able to sort of say to somebody, look, you know, you're not coming in here and putting in £5 worth?
We haven't put in, well, nobody's putting in £5 worth.
Right, good.
It's just a case of trying to get people parked up properly, moving along and organised, and get them through as absolutely quickly as we can. The team in the shop have been absolutely flat out getting people through, and that's all we can do.
And you're going to be prioritising NHS workers, is that right?
We have done. Last Saturday evening, we had an hour and a half where we stayed open extra, and the uptake on that was absolutely brilliant. The comments we've had on the Facebook page have been wonderful. Depending on how the situation goes, we're going to assess if we need to do it. So we don't know what's going to happen today. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you know, what would you say to people? What would you say to drivers? What's your advice, if you like?
We have got plenty of fuel.
And it's as simple as that.
Yes.
Very simple, very good message. All right, Kevin, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Plenty of fuel here. It's an independent business, this Callow Oil, so not tied to any of the very big petrol stations that you see around the UK. But as we've heard from Katie's report, and we'll hear throughout the morning, there are these plans in place now. I suppose it's just a case of making sure they work and making sure that people heed the warnings and the advice from people such as Kevin.
Thank you, John. We'll see you a bit later on this morning.
And do let us know what the situation is where you live. We want to get a picture this morning between 6 and 9 o'clock, don't we, of what the situation is, whether you're able to get fuel for the school run this morning or to get to work, whether you've been in a queue this weekend. So get in touch with the programme.
Yeah, BBC Breakfast at bbc.co.uk, and you can also find us on social media this morning as well. Elsewhere today, Labour will focus on economic issues at the annual conference in Brighton today, with a promise to scrap business rates in England.
The Shadow Chancellor Rachel Reeves says the plan would be fairer to struggling high street retailers. Well, let's talk now to our chief political correspondent, Adam Fleming, who is in Brighton for us this morning. Morning to you, Adam. Great to see you. How has this decision gone down so far?
Well, already the CBI, who represent big companies, and the Federation of Small Businesses, who represent smaller companies, have welcomed it because they really, really do not like business rates and have been calling for a reform to this tax on companies for a very long time. What Rachel Reeves is going to propose today has got a couple of stages. If there was a Labour government, the first thing they'd do would be give a discount to small businesses on their business rates. Then they'd whack up the tax on internet companies to raise more money from them while they were designing this new system. And there's not a lot of details about this new system. They're not spelling it out today. They're just setting out some of the principles. The big idea being that it would be targeted away from small shops on the high street and focus more on big businesses, especially the tech giants. So that's what's happening today. The drama here yesterday was a big row about the Labour Party internal rulebook, which I know sounds very boring, but it is actually quite significant for the Labour Party. The rules have now been changed to make it harder if there's a leadership contest for MPs to get on the ballot paper. And also the rules for the local Labour parties have been changed to make it much harder for the local members of the Labour Party to get rid of their MP or their candidate before an election. Now, the reason Keir Starmer has done that is to make it much more difficult for somebody like Jeremy Corbyn from the very far left of the party to come back to the leadership ever again. That has enraged some Labour Party activists, but Keir Starmer is pretty pleased that he's got this through because it's a big change, it's a big insurance policy for him, and it does show that even though you hear people mumbling about his leadership and whether he's cutting through with the public, he does have authority over the Labour Party, and he has managed to get something through. Although a little plot twist, he did have to water down his original proposals to actually get them through.
We love the plot twist. Adam, thanks very much indeed. And we will be speaking to the Shadow Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, in just over an hour's time.
Germany's two biggest parties have both insisted they can build a governing coalition following a very close result in yesterday's parliamentary elections.
Projections show the centre-left Social Democrats are ahead of Angela Merkel's party by about 2% of the vote. Our Europe correspondent Nick Beak reports.
After a Sunday of election drama, they partied into the night. But today, Germans are waking up with no clear idea of how their new government will take shape. Olaf Scholz says the people have chosen him to lead them, but he wasn't ready to announce his arrival on the international stage just yet.
So have you got 10 seconds for the BBC? Just a message. Do you think you'll be sitting next to Boris Johnson soon, sir?
Although the Social Democrat candidate says he should lead the next coalition.
It's certainly going to be a long night, but it's also certain that many German citizens voted Social Democrat because they want a change in government and because they want their next chancellor to be called Olaf Scholz.
At the Conservative headquarters, less happy faces. Disappointment that Angela Merkel's party had not done better. Yet the CDU candidate who wants to succeed her as Chancellor argued he could still run the country.
We had 16 years in Germany with Angela Merkel as Chancellor, and this is why we will try everything to form a government under the leadership of the CDU-CSU union.
Well, we were warned that it would be a long, long night, and it certainly proved to be that way. But with every hour that's passed and more results have come in, they've grown in optimism here at the Social Democrats' headquarters, but they know the next phase ahead will not be straightforward.
You're here with us.
After 16 years of Merkel, Germans have sent a message at the ballot box. The trouble is, it's not exactly clear what it was and what it will mean for the country and further afield. Nick Beak, BBC News, Berlin.
Strictly Come Dancing contestant Tom Fletcher has tested positive for COVID. The McFly singer, along with his partner Amy Dowden, who's also tested positive, will not be allowed to rehearse for 10 days. It means they will miss next week's live show. but they're expected back on our screens the following weekend.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.